Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'll show you how to copy John Isner's serve in 5 simple steps. Please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Even share this video with a friend, as those are the best ways to support this channel. So a big thank you goes to Essential Tennis for allowing me to use this footage. I've linked their account in the description below, so please give them a subscription. Awesome instruction and footage of the pros. So the first thing is the Isner Grip. Let's look at it in detail so you know exactly how to hold the racket. Now, if you're right-handed, you're going to take the base knuckle and the heel pad of your right hand and put it on panel number 2. So the very top panel is panel 1. This is the Continental Grip, panel 2. That is how you hold the racket to hit your best spin and fast flat serves. And I know I'm going to hear it from the lefties in the comment section if I don't show you the left-handed grip. So we've got the knuckle and the heel pad. Your bevel 1, lefties, is still the same as the righties, but your bevel 2, that panel, that second panel for the Continental Grip, is right there. So the second thing, once you have the grip right, the second thing is we have to make sure that when the ball leaves your hand, that the tip of your racket is pointing off to the right as it's coming up. You can see his racket is beginning its way up, and as the ball leaves his hand, the tip of his racket is pointing off to the right of the camera. It's as a right-hander. Obviously, if he's a lefty, everything's going to be reversed. But you want the tip of the racket facing off to the right if you are someone who is struggling with going palm up in your serve. And the reason is it gets you ready to use the proper throwing motion, the proper quarterback throwing motion, which is going to knock off a birthday hat. Most amateur players who struggle with their serve at this point don't have the tip of the racket pointing off to the right, where the racket is like this, but they actually have the racket off to the left of their hand from the camera's view, and you can see that Isner's palm is facing down here. Well, for players who struggle with their serve, they immediately point their palm up. And that means that their strings face up, which means they're going to use a waiter's tray, waitress position where the palm is facing up, and you're going to lose a ton of racket speed. So copy Osaka, copy Federer and Isner and Djokovic and Kyrgios and Sam Groff. Copy players who keep you from going into that palm up position. So I always like to get my students, once they release the ball, to make sure, and we look at this on film, and you should be looking at yourself on film, make sure that the tip of the racket is pointing off to the right of the camera if you're right-handed, to make sure that you're not going palm up. Now, the third tip, it has to do with the proper leg timing, leg drive timing, with when the knees bend and when the knees explode back up. So check this out. This is so cool. The knee bend, right? So the knee bend, and we know the knee bend because it's when the body starts going down. The knee bend should occur around the time the ball leaves your hand. So here the ball is leaving Isner's hand, and watch how his head is leaving that yellow line. So we know that that's when his knees are bending. So you should look at your own serve. By the way, pick up this app, Coach's Eye, right here. Go into the App Store and get it. It's an amazing app. I've had it for about 10 years now. I use it with all of my students when I film them on court, and it actually allows me to make these videos that I'm making here that you're watching right now. So pick up the app. It is going to be one of the best things you ever do for your tennis game. And then you can actually review everything we're working on in this video. You can review it with your own serve. So when the ball leaves his hand, that's when his leg bend begins. And then if we take him down all the way to the point where his knees bend all the way down, and we put a line there, that's when his legs will then begin to go back up again. That's how much knee bend he has. So let's review this again. His head begins going down, which means his knees are bending when the ball leaves his hand. And then when is he going to begin driving back up again? When will we see his head peak up above this yellow line? Well, it'll be just before he hits the birthday hat. The acceptable time to begin the leg drive is just before you hit the birthday hat off of your head, or as you hit the birthday hat off of your head. So check this out. Watch his head begin peeking up. We can see it right there. If we zoom in, it's right there. We can see his hair pop. Right there, you can see his hair begin to pop up. It's just before he knocks the birthday hat off. He's knocking the birthday hat off right now. So here he's hitting a birthday hat off of his head. And we can see his head is popped up above that yellow line. What I see typically is players allow their racket to go way down here before they ever begin driving up. You don't want to do that. Here's the reason why. When you time your leg drive and your body goes up because your knees begin pushing, you can see his legs straightening because he's pressing up. When you time the legs pushing up with the birthday hat knockoff or just before the birthday hat knockoff, it gets your body going up the opposite direction of your racket. Watch his racket going down as his body's going up. Check this out. See how his body's going up as his racket's going down? What this does when the body goes up as the racket's going down is it stretches the shoulder joint and it gets the racket to drop deeper and go farther around, which just stretches the shoulder back and like a rubber band allows your arm to snap through contact much faster. So you lose that elasticity if you wait for your racket to go way down to the bottom of the drop and then you begin pressing up with your body. And that's typically what I see. I've even seen pros on Instagram show, maybe pros in the hundreds, 200s, 300s, showing off their serve. And they have amazing serves and I would never be able to even win a point against those players. But they are definitely not maximizing how much speed they can utilize and get on their serve because they're not timing the leg drive properly. So make sure that you begin the knee bend as the ball comes out of your hand, and then you begin the leg drive pushing up as the racket knocks off the birthday hat or just before your racket knocks off the birthday hat to maximize the shoulder stretch and to be able to actually hit extremely fast serves. Now, that actually leads to our fourth tip, which is wear a birthday hat. If we look at this serve on Isner, we can see how close his racket gets to the top of his head. Please, if you're a coach, please get a pack of birthday hats and have your students wear them. If they serve like Isner, like Kyrgios, like Federer, like Djokovic, like Naomi Osaka, they will actually knock the birthday hat off of their head. Now, if they serve like Shapovalov, they won't knock the birthday hat off. And that's okay. I would never change Denis's serve, right? He's a world-class player. But for someone who doesn't have a good service motion yet, and they're just developing it, putting a birthday hat on and having them knock the birthday hat off, just like Federer, just like Isner, is going to get them into that proper trophy position. Everyone's looking for this position right here. Well, the easy way to do it is to just put a birthday hat on and then have the students serve. And if they hit the hat with their racket, it just means that racket was close enough in over their head and they moved their racket like a professional, which is exactly what you're looking for. So remember, he's going to drive his legs up as he's knocking off the birthday hat. So wear a birthday hat. I know I mention this all the time, but it is absolutely my favorite way to improve a player's service motion. So please go out, wear a birthday hat, and you'll hit amazing serves. And then the last tip has to do with the racket position right before contact. You can see in this serve, his strings are facing off to the left just before he hits the ball. So it actually looks like he's going to hit the frame and the edge of the racket leading up to the ball. And we can see it with this serve as well. Look at his racket. It literally looks like he's going to hit the ball with the edge. This is why you want a Continental Grip. It puts the racket on its edge prior to contact. So you can either spin the ball, keeping the racket on its edge longer, or turn the racket, presenting the strings to the back of the ball. When you are about to hit, you want your racket, if you're right-handed, facing off to the left. And this is on a kick serve, a flat serve, or a side spin serve. It doesn't matter. It's going to all be the same. It's just the amount of leading with the edge you have while you're striking the ball that's going to be adding spin or allowing you to hit flat. So you can see his racket's facing off to the left. Now his racket rotates 90 degrees in order to hit the back of the ball. This is actually a flat serve that he's hitting down the tee. And then we can see after contact, his strings face directly the opposite direction. So his strings are facing to the left here. Now his strings are facing off to the right. The reason for this is the fastest way to move the racket through contact. The pros do not point their strings up at this point, which is usually what I see with amateurs. Amateurs usually think, oh, the string should face up at this point. And then after contact, they have their strings facing the opposite direction, which is down. That is not the fastest way to move your racket. The fastest way to move your racket isn't facing up and then facing down, but actually facing to the left if you're right-handed and then facing to the right. If we zoom in here, we can actually see the rotation of his arm. I want you to look right here as he's hitting and look at his arm rotate. I'll just go back and forth here. Look at his whole arm rotate. This long axis rotation. It's unreal how loose, relaxed, how flexible he is. You'll even see after he pronates and his palm faces off to the right and his strings face off to the right. Watch how his strings actually face up. So just realize this. His strings are facing off to the right after he hits, and he keeps rotating. This is how flexible he is. Keeps rotating. Now his strings face up. I mean, that is unreal how flexible he is, how fast his racket is moving. I can remember Becker doing that, Boris Becker, Pete Sampras doing that after contact. Then obviously his ligaments and muscles and everything stretch back and they kind of recoil. Now his strings are facing back to the right again, and then he'll finish off to his left. It's simply amazing to see his racket on its edge, which you need to practice, by the way. You need to go out and hit some serves and even hit with the edge of the racket. Like literally hit the frame just to practice what it's like to lead with the edge right before contact. Then just before, like right here, it looks like he's going to hit the frame. Then just before you rotate your arm, and you can see that the racket and his arm are not in a straight line. That's what it should be. You don't want the racket like this. You don't want to think that the racket should be above your hand. The racket's going to be slightly to the inside of your hand. It's the fastest way to move your racket. The whole arm rotates, then the palm faces off to the right. Palm to the left, if you're right-handed, and then palm to the right. So to go over this again, this was so much fun to make. To go over this again, make sure you've got the Continental Grip, the base knuckle of your index finger and heel pad on bevel number 2 on that second panel. Make sure that after you toss the ball that the tip of the racket is pointing off to the right. You want the tip of your racket pointing off to the right. Make sure that at that moment as the ball leaves your hand, you then begin bending the knees as you prepare for the racket to come in and knock off the birthday hat. Then, as that's happening, that's when you explode back up with your legs. You can see his legs exploding up. And then when you bring the racket around to hit, that you want the strings facing to the left if you're right-handed, and then they face off to the right, super loose motion, and then he follows through onto his left side. A little bit of a extra tip here. Let that back foot kick up for just a second, just so that you have your balance. You start hitting your serves the way John Isner hits them. I'm telling you, you are going to gain a ton of confidence. You're going to believe in your serve. You're going to be able to win points on your serve, and you're going to win a lot more matches. This is Ryan Reedy from 2MinuteTennis.net. You got this.